Okay, good morning sa tanan and Merry Christmas. And for this video, we will be discussing about adjusting entries. So this is a lengthy discussion. So for the first part, I'll be breaking it down to two parts. The first part, which we will be discussing today, are the discussion over the individual accounts, transactions involving adjusting entries. And then the second part, i-continue na to itong atuang example sa journal entries and sa journal entries, ledger, and then the trial balance. So without further ado, let us go directly to the discussion. Okay. So so adjusting entries, by the way, this is not my PowerPoint. I just got it from the internet. So kinsa may tag-iyaan thank you so much for allowing us. So tanan ang hiding wala kakabalot ng pinsa. Basta dili na ako and credits to the only. So definition and importance of adjusting journal entries. Adjusting journal entries are entries used to update the accounts prior to the preparation of the financial statements because they affect more than one accounting period. So this is how I explain adjusting entries to my students. Think of a listahan. Okay, example, nakalistahan. Nakapil din. Okay, let's say nakalistahan. Okay, and then halinan ka. Sulat ka o 10,000 pesos. Kalagan niya, 10,000 pesos. Tapos, you realize nga, dili day 10,000 pesos. 9,000 pesos lang din. So what we do in informal accounting is, nakasulat man tag Gmail, i-crash out lang nato siya, butangan nato sa correction tape, and then, ibutang nato ang tamang entry. Ibutang nato ang tamang sales, which is 9,000 pesos. However, in the formal accounting, we cannot do that. Okay? Kaya kung buhaton magunaton na siya, mawala ang iyahang trace, mawala ang traceability sa mga transactions. So wala ta kabalo nga Gmail di ay siya before siya nahimo 9,000. So ang ato ang first entry, which usually happens during the journal entries part, is 10,000, and then we will be making an adjusting entry para makorek ang balance. So in that case, para mahimo siyang 9,000 from the 10,000, we deduct 1,000 pesos. So katong 1,000 pesos dito nga deduction, that is basically our journal entry to correct our sales from 10,000, gagawin nating 9,000. Okay? So I hope that's quite clear. So basically, we are just adjusting a prior record para ma-update siya sa kung unsa ang naa sa present. Okay? So daghan ni siya, no? Daghan ang mga klase-klase nga adjusting entries. That is why medyo lengthy siya. So ato lang ning isa-isahon para dili mo mabugatan. Do I hide this one? Okay, so prepayments. So prepayments ay basically expenses nga atoan ang gibayaran pero wala pa nato na gamit. So what does that mean? It simply means it is an advance payment for something that we will be using in the future. So for example, renta. Usually, if it involves rent, na ay advance payment and then na ay deposit. But that advance payment and the deposit still pertains to rent expense. Pero since advance man ta nagbayad, we don't record it as an expense yet. So, i-record siya, but instead, we record it as an asset first. Kay kwarta pa manggihapon nato na siya, pero naka-allocate lang siya para sa pagbayad og expenses in the future. So, muna yung ginatawag ng mga prepayments. Okay. So, following the account subjected to adjustment, natay asset method. And mo na siya usually ang ginagamit na ako, no? So, we record it as prepaid expense muna. Take note prepaid expense is not an expense but an asset. And then, credit cash. We record an asset, debit, nadungagan ang cash, and nadungagan ang prepaid expenses, that is an asset, that is debit. And then, we credit cash because mo na siya itong gibayad. And then our adjusting entry for the period would be, oh wait, so after adjusting, if magbuhat na tag-adjusting entry, we debit expense, then credit prepaid expense. So the explanation for the adjusting entry is that naatay i-record niya asset, which is intended to pay the rent in the future. So at the end of the period, for example, at the end of the month, nakagamit na ta sa renta. Okay? Nanatay portion nga nagamit sa ato ang gibayad. And since naanatay nagamit, it will already entail an expense. However, since gibayaran naman nato siya previously, dili na nato siya bayaran in the present. Instead, ang buhaton nato is we record the expense and ibawas nato siya dito sa prepayments nato. That is why nag-debit ang expense diri and then nag-credit ta og prepaid expense. For a while, ang charger din nalimpan. Okay, sorry for that delay. Okay, let's move on. Okay, there's an example here with regards to prepayments. On April 30, 2016, X company paid 36,000 pesos worth of insurance premium for 2 years. Take note ha, it's good for 2 years. Give the adjusting journal entry on June 30. Okay, let's break down this example first. Take note unsang adlaw siya nagbayad. It's on April 30, 2016. Magkano yung binayad niya? 36,000 pesos. And kaning 36,000 pesos, this is good for 2 years or 24 months. Therefore, so the 36,000 divided by 24 months, there would be an insurance expense of 1,500 for every month nga mulabay. And take note, kano sa ta magbuhat og adjusting entry, June 30 to 2016. So the first thing na we need to determine is unsa kadugay ang journal entry padulong sa period of adjustment. So, April 30 man na siya, so we no longer include April. So, magsugod ta og ihap sa May and then June. We include June kasi it's June 30. Therefore, 2 months. So, since 2 months man, and there is that 1,500 lang. Since 2 months man siya, and then ay 1,500 niya expense, asagi ka ng 1,500. So, sa 36,000 divided by 24. Sir, nga nung 24 man? Because kani nga payment, the 36,000 is good for 2 years. And take note, 2 years, meron tayong 12 months per year, therefore 24 months. With that, we have to make an adjusting entry pertaining to insurance of 1,500 for every month nga mulabay. Since 2 months man na siya, times na 2, so we have 3,000 pesos. So the entry to record the payment of the insurance is 36,000. Again, prepaid insurance, this is an asset kasi nga prepayment. This is still our cash. This is still our resources. And binayad natin 36,000 pesos cash. Explanation, paid 2 years insurance. As for the adjusting entry, ano siya? Debit insurance expense because with regards to insurances na ay ang time na mulabay is equivalent to the expiration of that portion. Therefore, sa 2 months nga nilabay na ay 3,000 pesos worth of insurance that we have to record. And instead nyo bayaran nato ni siya, we simply charge it to our prepaid asset, which is prepaid insurance. So, as of June 30, if I will be asking the question, how much is our insurance expense? The answer is 3,000 pesos. And how much is the prepaid insurance? It will be 33,000 pesos na lang. So, 36 debit less 3,000 prepaid insurance credit ang may bilhin. That's 33,000. Okay, example number 2. Supplies. Okay, this is also a common account used in accounting. Supplies account showed a balance of 4,000 pesos. And supplies used during the year amounted to 2,300. Give the adjusting entry on December 31, 2016. So take note, pag sinabing supplies account showed a balance of 4,000, naatay na journal entry na debit to supplies of 4,000 pesos in the period, during the period. And then, at the end of the month, okay, at the end of the period, it was determined nga naa daw nagamit. Take note ha. Usahay ang given is kung pila ang nagamit. Usahay pod ang given is kung pila ang nabilin. So you have to, there is a separate computation for those two scenarios. In this example, ang gihatag is the supplies used. Okay, so give the adjusting entry. So since natay nagamit na supplies amounting to 2,300, that means there is a corresponding expense related to supplies. So kung mag-record ta og supplies expense, i-debit nato na siya 2,300, and from 4,000 na supplies, we reduce it by 2,300 nga naman because na ay nagamit. So if I will be asking the question, pila ang nabilin nga supplies at the end of the period, the answer would be 1,700. Asa gikan ang 1,700? Di ba natay 4,000 sa atong libro? Tapos, naday 2,3 na gamit. Therefore, ang nabilin is 1,700. But of course, kaning 1,700, dili na siya mao ang ipangita. Ang ipangita is, ang adjusting entry rather is this one, recording the portion of the supplies nga nagamit. Okay? Example number 3, the trial balance of Mongolia Cafe shows kitchen supplies and kitchen supplies expense accounts at balances of 8,400. At year end, there are 1,480 of supplies on hand. Okay, muna siya kung ang giingon ganina nga this is an instance wherein na ay supplies nga naka-record, and then ang additional information for the adjusting entry is ang nabilin. So, na ay 8,400 na na-record. Okay. And then, at the end of the period, na ay 1,480 na bilin. So, what does that mean? It means the katong kuan difference, it is safe to assume na nagamit na to siya. And therefore, there is a need to record an expense for the portion niya nawala. Okay? Or nagamit. 8,400, nagsugod ta, recorded as 8,400. And then at the end of the period, nabili na lang daw 1,480. Therefore, there is 6,920 that we have to record as an expense. Debit, kitchen supplies, 6,920, then credit, kitchen supplies. We record an expense, therefore, debit, and then we deduct it sa ato ang existing kitchen supplies. Okay, let's now go to deferrals or unearned income. So, pag sinabing, kung ganina sa prepayments, kita na business, nag-advance ta og bayad sa ato ang mga suppliers. Suppliers sa rent, suppliers sa supplies, suppliers sa insurance. So there is that recording of the asset for future expenses. This time, baliktad siya. Ang customer nato, ang client nato, ang nagbayad in advance. So pag magbayad gani in advance, that is not a revenue. That is not an income. That is actually a liability. Okay? Liability siya because nakadawat tag cash. Pero wala pa nato na render ang service or wala pa nato na deliver ang goods. We have to render the service and deliver the goods in a future date before we record it as revenue or income. So again, deferrals or unearned income are liabilities. Advance payment by our clients. Income already received but not yet earned. Okay, liability method ang ato ang gamiton diri. Journal entry upon receipt of cash. So kung makadawat tag cash for an advance payment, we debit cash kay dungagan man ato ang kwarta. But we don't record sales or we don't record service revenue. Instead, we credit unearned income or deferred income. These are liability accounts. And then the adjusting journal entry at the end of the accounting period is kung naay portion sa ato ang liability na na-render na nato ang service, kung na-deliver na nato ang goods, then we will have to make an adjustment for that to adjust our liability account. Debit unearned income, credit income. Example, on August 1, Dr. Yi received 90,000 pesos for dental fees to be rendered. Okay, so therefore, this is an advance payment in the next 6 months. Give the adjusting journal entry at the end of September. Okay, so August 1 siya gihatag and ang 90,000 is good for 6 months. Therefore, from August to September, there is 2 months nga nilabay na anay portion nga ma-earn nato. So let's try to compute pila atong ma-earn per month. So 90,000 divided by 6 months. So every month na ay 15,000 pesos nga ma-earn nato. And since 2 months ang mulabay, 30,000 pesos. So the entry sa pagdawat sa maong 90,000 is debit cash, kaya nakadawat ang cash or cash increased, and then we record a liability account, unearned dental fees, 90,000 din. Question before we proceed, how much income did we record on August 1? The answer, 0. Kasi the 90,000 is not yet recorded as an income, but recorded as a liability. And then, on September, at the end of September, naanay portion na na-earn nato. Mga nato sa atong compute. Therefore, kailangan na nato siya bawasan ang atong utang, unearned dental fees, 30,000 pesos, and then credit dental fees. Gibawas na nato. At saan gibawasan nato atong utang and we record an income for the portion that we have already rendered service. Okay, example number 2. On December 1, 2016, Pitit, I don't know kung tama mo ang pagkabasa, Pitit ko, received 48,000 pesos, amount of advance rentals for 6 months. So, kita ang nag-offer og rental services dire and isa sa atong client si Pitit. Okay, tama ba? Dili dai. Kita dai si Pitit tapos nakadawat ta og advance rental amounting to 48,000 good for 6 months. Take note, nadawat niya December 1 and then we have to make an adjusting entry for December 31. Therefore, pila ka bulan ang nilabay? The answer is 1. So, let's compute. 48,000 good for 6 months. So, every month, we will be recording 8,000 pesos. So, kay 1 month man, 8,000 lang siya for December. So, records na nato ang entry sa pagdawat sa 48,000 na cash. Debit, 48,000 cash kasi nga increase ang atong asset. And then, we record a liability account, an earned rent income, 48,000. So, this is on December 1. And the adjusting entry would be to reduce our liability account and record an income account. Example number 3. On March 1, 2015, Finland Tutorials received 60,000 representing advance payment for services to be rendered on November 15. As of year-end, only 70% of the expected service was rendered. We debit cash 60,000 because we received 60,000, and then unearned service revenue credit 60,000. And by year-end, not all of the 60,000 was rendered. Therefore, we only record 42,000 pesos. So 60 times 70%, that's 42,000 pesos rendered as service and therefore should be recorded as service income. Okay, accrued expenses. Are expenses already incurred or used but not yet paid? Adjusting entry at the end of the accounting period. Okay. So take note that in the accrual method of accounting, expenses are recorded when incurred. Okay, sabot pasabot ana. Ang pasabot ana is that bisag wala tayo gibayad, basta kay nagamit na nato or na pahimos na nato ang isa ka butang or isa ka service, then we have to record expenses even if wala na to siya nabayaran. So for example, makadawat ta og bill sa kuryente. Usually, mabilan ta og kuryente at the end of the month for the month nga nagamit nato ang kuryente. Kumbaga, gigamit sa nato daan ang kuryente before ta hatagan og bill. Sa paghatag sa bill sa atoa, dili pa man nato na siya bayaran dayon-dayon. However, since we already received a bill sa kuryente and nagamit na nato siya, therefore, kailangan na nato siya i-record sa atoang journal. Okay? So, muna siyang mga accrued expenses. Expenses already incurred or used but not yet paid. How to record it? Debit expenses and then credit payable or accrued expense. Accrued expenses. Record nato as an expense and then we record a liability account because dili pa man nato siya bayaran. So for example, the company received a Manila bill in the amount of 9,800 on December 26, 2016. The company intends to pay on January 8, 2017. So, on December 26, we have to make an adjusting entry to record the bill. Ayan. But since dili pa man nato siya bayaran, we will just be recording a liability pertaining to that expenses. Unpaid salaries at the end of December 31 amounted to 18,800. So the same, record ta of salaries expense 18,800 debit and then record liability so that ma-reflect siya sa atoang financial statement that as of December 31, we have an utang sa atoang mga trabahante amounting to 18,800. And then on March 1, 2015, Xylophone Tutorials borrowed money from Metrobank to be used in business. Xylophone issued an interest-bearing note for the 285 net of 2% processing fee it received. The bank loan is payable after 3 years with an annual interest of 15%. Provide the journal entries at the end of the year. So, let's break it down muna, no? So, naatay gihulam nga kwarta from Metrobank. So, 285,000 pesos daw ang atuang nadawat. However, this is net of the 2% processing fee. Kung sa'y buot pasabot na. So, dili jud 285 ang atuang giutang. Atong giutang is 285 divided by 1. Mali. Alagyan mo na siya. So, check nato kung i-appeal ba niya. Ayun. So, ang ato adong giutang is 290,816.32. Bungkig ayon. Anyway. Then, the bank is payable after 3 years with an annual interest of 15%. Provide the journal entries at the end of the year. So this is a bit tricky, but hinahinayan na to ni. So, on March 1, kailangan na to i-record ang transaction involving the loan. Take note, we don't record the loan at 285, but instead, wala entry, no? Okay, wala siya na entry. So, ang atong entry supposedly ani is debit notes, debit cash, 285,000 pesos. Credit, note payable. Notepad. So, sa notepad lang ta. Ang cash na nadawat na to is only $285,000. So, that's our debit. And then, ang atong credit is notes payable. Pero dili siya 285. It should be kaning 290,816.32. 290,816.32. Okay. Pero sir, kulangan na to ang debit. Okay? Because there is processing fee amounting to ay processing fee. Na, how much? The difference minus 55. Ano siya? 5,816.32. Ano siya? Supposedly ito ang debit and credit on the date sa pagkulam na to sa buong kwarta. And then, ang ato ang interest, katong 15% interest, will be based on the kaning amount, the 290, dili ang 285 because this is just the net. The amount na ato yung gihulam sa bangko is this one. So therefore, 290,816.32 times 15%. Okay, so mo na siya ang ato ang annual nga interest. 290,816.32 times 15 times 10 over 12. Yeah. 36,352 ang ato ang interest for the period from March 1 to December 31. That is why we have this entry of interest expense because ato ang loan naga-incur of interest sa bangko. And for the period December 31, na natin interest expense nga 36,352. Pero since dili pa man nato siya bayaran, we will be crediting payable account for this particular interest. Okay? So if you have questions with regards to this accrued expense, especially for this interest-bearing note, then feel free to comment and I will get back to you. So I have decided to just end here. Kaya medyo taas-taas na ang discussion para mas namoy time to absorb the discussion for the initial part of the adjusting entries. So katong mga, it's actually slide 23 out of 71, no? So ipadayon na lang nato siya sa sunod niya discussion. Thank you so much and have a good day. Advance Happy New Year.